Alright, today we're going to pick up on Chapter 5, Social, Cultural, and Environmental Theories. Okay, so Chapter 5 focuses on the social, cultural, and environmental theories. There are a lot of these theories that fit into these categories, which is why you'll see this is separated into two different parts. The first theory we're going to look at is the social cognitive or social learning theory. This theory was first called social learning theory. I have a tendency to actually call it social learning theory. That's the way I first learned it, but it's really a social cognitive theory now. So the key principle of this theory is the idea of learning by observation of others. Think about it. It makes sense based on the name social learning theory. So if you think about social learning theory, that name always helps me remember what it is. You learn according to this theory by socialization or being around other people and observing what they do. So this theory continues to develop over time, and over time self-efficacy was added. If you remember from Chapter 4, self-efficacy is the belief that someone can do what they want to do. Let me say that again. Self-efficacy is the belief in oneself that they can do a specific behavior or task. Okay, reciprocal determinism is the idea that behavior occurs and is part of a continuous interactive cycle. This cycle includes individuals and their social environment. So a social environment could be a workplace, a school, a dorm, a neighborhood, or anywhere you interact with other individuals. So it's not limited to just one place. Okay, so your social environment could be lots of different places. Alright, if you look on page 56 of your textbook, go ahead and get your textbook out now, pause the video, get your textbook out. You're going to need it several times throughout this lecture. Got it? Okay. If you look on page 56 of your textbook, in table 5-1, it gives you the specific definitions of each of these constructs. Okay, so I'm not going to read you those. You guys can all see them in your textbook that you're looking at right now. You can see those definitions. Additionally, I've included two videos that'll help you elaborate on the social cognitive theory. So this one and this one. Okay. If you look on page 57 of your textbook, there's an example of how the social cognitive theory is used. So it's a really, really good example. So go ahead and read page 57 again, because I know you've already read the textbook. Because we all remember, we're reading the textbook, we're listening to the lectures, we're reading back through the PowerPoints, we're watching videos, we're doing all those things, right? I'm going to assume everyone's shaking their head yes. Good. Alright. So the decision to either participate in a behavior or to change a behavior can be and is influenced by two factors. Okay, individual, which is internal, and environmental, which is external. Reciprocal determinism is really just the interaction between these two factors and how that interaction influences or impacts the behavior of the individual. Social cognitive theory can, as you probably realize by now, be very complicated. Okay, I would say the theories we've discussed so far, it's the most complicated. For a lot of people, that's a huge critique of the theory. Okay, it's changed a lot. That's another big critique of the theory. For example, it's changed, since I first learned about the theory in undergrad, which, come on now, guys, it's not that long ago. Okay, all of these changes have resulted in less clarity about the underlying purpose of the theory. So, when there's a lot of changes going on, a lot of things happening, it's harder to know what's the actual purpose, what are we doing here, what's going on. So it's, for people that have learned about it for a long time, it can be really difficult to kind of keep up with. Alright, next theory. Social network theory is an easier theory to understand, especially given social media. Okay, we're going to use that as an example a lot for this one. A social network is the network of relationships that surround an individual. Okay? So think of it this way. Social network is those around you that you socialize with. It can be, again, in a workplace, a neighborhood, a dorm, school, church, etc. Anywhere like that. Okay? It's not only people you are friends with, it's also people that you interact with. Does that make sense? So it's people that you may say, that classmate you're sitting next to, you're not friends with them. You don't know them. Maybe you know their name. But they have an influence on you because maybe they're asking questions in the stats class that you would love to know the answer to. Or it's the person sitting next to you in the church pew on Sunday who passes you the offering plate every Sunday, and you're like, oh, you know, they always ask how my week was, but you don't really know them. You're not friends, okay? So that can be included. So you do not, remember, you do not have to be friends with someone for them to have an influence on you. Just in life, that's an important thing to remember. Okay? With your textbook, which is still open, I have no doubt, if you look on page 59 of the textbook, there are specific definitions, again, for each of these terms. I'm not going to read you these terms. That's not what this is, okay? You can read them. There's this video right here, okay? Video, make sure you watch it, okay? Those of you using the social network theory for your project part 1, there are a lot of answers to your project in this video, just so you know. So if you're using social network theory, I would definitely watch this video a couple times. Everyone else, you should still watch it. But those of you using it, this is going to help you a lot. And you can cite it, and if you need help citing this video, let me know. Alright, so this figure is found in your textbook on page 58. Okay, we're still in the textbook. And it really is just provides a visual for how this theory can work. It shows how person 6, see person 6 up here? Okay, does not even come into direct contact with the focus individual. Okay, so this is the individual we're focusing on. Okay, but they still influence them, right? Because person 6 is friends with 7 or with 3 or communicates with 3, who goes back to the focus. Same thing, 6 to 2, 2 to the main individual we're focusing on. Okay. So think about it, this is how Facebook works as well, right? So if this is you and this is your Facebook, right? Person 2 comments on your Facebook page, on your picture, right? Person 6 and person 2 are friends on Facebook. Person 6 can see the comment, which means they can see your post, right? So you've influenced person 6, and it can go backwards, right? Person 2 comments on person 6 Facebook. You're not friends with person 6, but you can see it through person 2. Okay? That's how social network theory works. Okay? So, just as an example. Okay. The critiques of social network theory, it's not really useful within a small group. Okay? This is in part because of how difficult it can be to identify these networks. It's hard to make all these connections. Think of it this way. It's hard for you to know someone you and your best friend have in common if you have never been around that third person together, right? We have all had it happen where we say, oh my goodness, I didn't know you were related to so-and-so, and they are my husband's best friend, or something along those lines, okay? Think of it that way. You don't realize that you have connections places that you do, right? Okay? That's how this can be really difficult, because you have to identify those relationships that you don't even know what it is. Okay? Okay, that example was super cheesy. I think all the examples today have been really cheesy. Sorry. But maybe you guys are catching on. Alright, next one. Diffusion of innovations addresses the gap between the introduction of a new technology and behavior and when it is actually adapted by the large community. Okay. Think of cell phones. Cell phones are the perfect example for this. Cell phones are not a really new concept, right? We think they are, but they're not. They've been around for several decades, which is crazy, but they have been. But they really took a while to take off and to become something people use every day. In just the last 10 years, the number of people who have a cell phone in the U.S. have increased from 207 million to 380 million. Okay, that's almost, not quite, almost doubling. Okay, so this is an example of diffusion of innovation. Cell phones were invented decades ago, but they didn't really take off until the late 90s, early 2000s. So that addresses the gap between, diffusion of innovation would address the gap between the introduction of a new technology, cell phones were introduced decades ago, and the actual adoption of the behavior by a large community or group, right? So we're just now seeing people get rid of their home phone lines. We're seeing people go straight to cell phones. Grandparents, you know, my grandparents have cell phones now, which is crazy to me. They're almost 90 years old and have cell phones. They don't text, but they answer their cell phones and carry them around all the time, which is crazy to me. Okay, so that's kind of addressing that. Okay, the big take-home point on this theory is that the innovation is a behavior or a technology. Okay, so diffusion is the process by which the innovation is communicated or spread among the community. Okay, so that's really what diffusion is. Okay, so it's the process by which the innovation is communicated. So think of it that way. It's how it spreads out. These are the key terms for the diffusion of innovation. These terms and more detailed definitions are on page 61 of your textbook. Again, I'm not going to just read you these key terms. I think they're pretty self-explanatory there, and then your textbook helps a lot with those. So I'm not really going to talk about the next few slides because I'm giving you a video that honestly does a better job explaining it than I can. I'm also going to attach a presentation from a previous course that I had that talks about the theory, and it really kind of takes you through it a little bit longer. It does a really good job on this theory. So take the time to read through that presentation and watch the video. It's not really that long, okay? So this is the part I'm going to kind of skip through, but definitely make sure you read it and you follow along with the video and the other notes I'm going to give you, and it'll kind of help with these because it goes into all these details. Alright, social marketing. This is our next theory. So we're going to pick back up here with social marketing. I've also attached a PowerPoint just on social marketing theory in your module this week. Those of you who've taken a business course or have worked in any type of sales, think of this theory like that. Okay, kind of go back on that idea you have. You're trying to get people or consumers to buy a health change. Okay, what you are selling is the behavior change or the health-related product or technology. Okay. Makes sense? That's what you're trying to sell. There are 4 P's in social marketing. Product, okay, the behavior, the program, technology, whatever it is that you're trying to get them to buy into. Okay, so then the price, how much does the behavior change cost? This does not have to be financial. Okay, for example, if the behavior change is to quit drinking alcohol, maybe the cost is losing friends because all they do is go out and drink, right? That's a big thing college students say, well, I'm not going to stop drinking and getting drunk all the time because then who am I going to hang out with? Because one of my friends, that's what they do on Friday and Saturday nights. Okay, so that's a price. That's a price you pay. It can be a good price. It can be a financial cost. It can be a negative cost. Okay, place. So where is the product available? Okay. Maybe you're trying to sell an after-school program. Maybe you're trying to sell a tobacco cessation program. Okay, so where is it? Like, where is it actually available? Promotion. Okay, so this is how to promote the first 3 P's. So how do you promote the product, the price, and the place? So how are you going to actually get it out there? How are you going to get word out there what's actually happening? Okay. Market segmentation is really just splitting your population into subgroups that make sense. Okay, so for example, you may realize it would be best to try and sell, or when we're saying sell, remember that's to convince or to change, do a behavior change, the individuals to start an exercise program. If you split them into groups based on gender and age, right? It might go better. Women may respond better potentially to working in a group with people that are similar in their age, that are also women, and they're not worried about, you know, what men, are they like looking at them, are they not, vice versa, right? Same for men, they may be more comfortable, okay? Just thinking that's an example. So targeting, this is just really tailoring the campaign or the promotion to the individuals or the segments that you just created. Okay, so you created the marketing segments, so now you're going to target and create the campaign that's targeting those specifically. Okay, so a campaign for 20-year-olds might not be as effective for my grandparents who are almost 90, right? You're trying to get the same behavioral change, but how you go about it might be different. Like, they're not on social media, so you probably don't want to use social media as a promotional method. But college students, that might be a perfect promotional method. Okay. Alright, social marketing, it really involves other theories and can have a lot of the same constructs that we've already talked about. Okay, so like the self-efficacy, we keep coming back to it. Perceived costs and benefits, it's from the health belief model. Okay, you'll see you can kind of put some of those in, and they really impact the social marketing theory as well. So you'll see these constructs you've kind of been learning about, make sure you're understanding them because they're moving forward. As always, there's critiques. The biggest is that it's difficult to assess if the campaign is really doing what it was supposed to do as far as creating the change. It can be hard to tell just with anything. You know, so they attended the campaign. Did it really do stuff? A social marketing campaign that I've used as an example for some of you who've done advising with me is when you go into hospitals and you see the signs that say "Call, don't fall" at hospitals. That's a big social marketing campaign. Okay, you know, it tells on the signs a lot of times. It says what the, you know, if you fall, hospital stays could be longer, it can be more expensive, more rehab, anything like that, and it says ultimately can result in death. That's what most of them say. That's the price. Okay, so the behavior change you're trying to use there is you're trying to get people to call and not just get out of bed themselves, right? So that's the behavioral change. Okay, and the price can be falling, can be staying longer, can be actual financial cost. So think about that one, okay? So then you gotta think about how you're gonna promote it and all that, okay? So you think about that would probably be a good example for y'all to kind of think about. All right. So that ends this lecture for this week. You know, moving forward, if you have questions, please let me know, and we will go from there. I hope everyone has a good week.